wanted us to look at Telkom. The momentum to the bottom is clearly in place. We can see that 40-week moving average has already changed into resistance there around the 9th of September when the share changed 78 Rand 40 into a resistance. At the moment, I do not have a turnaround candle or pattern yet, Cref. So technically, I have to sit on my hands. Yes, my stochastic is extremely oversold, which means the probability of the instrument to bounce to higher levels is there. And yes, my shorter blue line within my indicator has broken upwards through my longer orange line, and that is seen as positive. But so you can say, yes, I've got a positive divergence on my stochastic indicator. And some might say, Christelle, but that is a dragonfly candle, which is a positive candle. In theory, we should wait for the next candle to confirm the optimism of that dragonfly. So yes, this candle is still in the making because this is a weekly graph and the week is not finished yet. This candle will only be finished on Friday's close. So if this week's candle is a little bit more optimistic, in other words, a long lower shadow, maybe a tweezer bottom or a bullish engulfing candle, that might be your first hint, Cref, that Telkom is turning around. It looks like there is some buying interest every time for the last 3 weeks. These lower shadows on my candles implies that there is some buying interest and that they are accumulating in weakness, but not enough for me yet to see that there is a confirmation of a turnaround pattern. Yes, it's obviously shot to the downside. It's trading at the same levels it did in December 2017. So if you want to accumulate in bits, maybe you can. What will be my first confirmation of optimism will be when Telkom changes 48 Rand and 2 cents into a support. And I would maybe wait for that on a weekly graph. And below 41 Rand 93, we can assume that the momentum to the bottom can continue again. There's a saying in our market, don't try to catch a falling knife. So, Cref, I suggest you maybe hold on a little bit and wait for that confirmation before you accumulate the share. Charles wanted us to look at Coeur Mining, listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Now, we've have discussed Coeur Mining previously, and the ticker of the share is CDE. Now, we've mentioned before, inverse head and shoulders, triple bottoms, double bottoms, tweezer bottoms. Those are all turnaround patterns that should not be ignored. And Charles, if you can remember correctly, we spoke about this inverse head and shoulder formation. And yes, the conservative target has now been reached. But now the big question is, will the full target of the share be achieved? And what is the full target? It's the length of the head projected upwards from where the neckline was confirmed. And that can take Coeur Mining to $7.94. Now, Charles, you did mention in your email that, Christelle, I maybe have taken profits too early. And that is one thing about trading that you should make peace with. There'll always be times where you think, I should have held on for longer. And there will always be times where you think, I should have taken my profit and closed. So, Charles, make peace with the fact that you have got a profit and you should be happy with it. I would not try to get in now. The momentum is to the top is clearly in place. Unless you want to chase the momentum, then you can use $6.63 as a protection level. However, have a look at your stochastic indicator. It's extremely overbought. It's sitting there around an 88, which means the share might even retrace a little bit first before it continues to rise. So maybe wait for a little bit of a pullback, and in the pullback try to accumulate again. But for now, Charles, I would rather make peace with the fact that you have banked profit and that it is continuing to rally. Interesting, this week we've sent an email about a Black Friday special, and the request that I came back, and we mentioned there about the ALSI. And we had several of you send us emails and say, Christelle, the ALSI, your level on the ALSI is wrong. It's the all share, and these are the levels. Something I just want to maybe explain to our viewers is, and I'm going to mention 3 different instrument or indexes. Now, the one is the top 40 index, and that is the J200. The top 40 index is the 40 biggest shares on our exchange according to their market capitalization, shares times the market price of only the top 40 shares. Now that level of the top 40 is 48,809. You cannot trade the top 40 index on the JSE. Yes, there are market makers out there that make a market for the top 40 index, but it's not a tradable instrument on our exchange. The ALSI is the tradable instrument for the top 40. So you get the ALSI and the OLMI. So the ALSI is the 1 to 10 exposure, and this is the level 48,886. This is the ALSI, the tradable instrument on our exchange for the top 40. So the question was, Christelle, how come they are different? Because the ALSI is a future, a term contract, and it's derived from the top 40. So every 3 months, the ALSI expires. In other words, this year on the 18th of December, that instrument will either roll over if you close your position and you roll it over to the March contract, or it will just expire, and whatever the value is, that will be P&L for you, market to market. Then you have, that is the tradable instrument, the ALSI. So you cannot trade the top 40 index in South Africa unless it's through a market maker. And then you have the all share index, and that is the J203. That is an index that captures about 99% of all the shares on our exchange. That is an index. Again, it's not a tradable. If you want to trade it as a future, the all share index does not have a tradable instrument on our exchange unless it's through a market maker that makes their own market. I really hope that helps a lot, because I just feel like we need to get the jargon right between the ALSI, the all share, and the top 40 index. Please feel free to send me an email if you've got any questions. Jane wanted us to look at Remgro, one of the favorites of our market, all-time beauties, and Jane, beautiful fallen wedge formation. What is very positive about Remgro is the fact that that red line, the 40-week moving average, changed into a support. It tells me the long-term sentiment towards this share has now changed to positive. But Jane, I have got overbought levels. So if you don't have the share already, I think you might be too late. And have a look, my shorter moving average have broken downwards within my longer orange line. That tells me the probability of the share to pull back or retrace is more likely. What is the target of my fallen wedge formation? So we're quite conservative. So we like to take the middle width of the formation. Some analysts, and in theory, they take the tail of the formation as a possible target. I'm just going to take the middle part, the middle width of the formation, and we project it upwards from where the formation was confirmed, which means the possible target for that fallen wedge is 218 Rand 32. And will it definitely reach it? No, maybe not. Nothing is an exact science in technical analysis, but you can see even in this week's pullback that there is still buyers that have accumulated the share. It's coming from a very low base. If I zoom out, you will see that it's coming from a low base. I mean, the top year was around October 2015 when the share traded around 278.54, retraced completely, and hopefully it can keep the 40-week moving average a support. So Jane, as long as Remgro trades above 183 Rand 58, we will remain positive about it. If it starts to decline again, maybe we can see lower levels. I would wait for a pullback, maybe back to the 40-week moving average before I accumulate it again. If you want to chase the momentum, then remain long above 187.19. And when the share changes this strong resistance there around 196.29 into a support, you would assume that the momentum to the top will continue. Jessica wanted us to look at Palladium. And what is always interesting, people are very keen to buy an instrument when it has seen double digits growth. But I'm afraid, Jessica, I think you might be a little bit too late. Palladium has reached the one high after the other. Yes, it made pullbacks time and time again, and maybe you can use a possible pullback to accumulate Palladium or an ETF or maybe even a tradable future for Palladium should you be interested. Yes, it is extremely overbought, but it's still pointing upwards, which means the momentum to the top will continue. Hopefully you can see a little bit of a pullback back to around $1,773, and then even hopefully even lower. If you can get in at 1,707, maybe then that will be a time to accumulate. I would be very nervous to do that because, I mean, look at the rally that it's had. And we can't look at palladium and not look at gold. And somebody asked us for gold. I can't find the name now, but gold has tested, and we've previously mentioned, look how strongly gold has tested that $1,456 and bounced from it. Now, the critical level it needs to change into a support is waiting at $1,485. If the gold price can start to consolidate above 1,485, then hopefully we can see levels around 1,515, and then that strong resistance there around 1,555. Yes, gold is extremely oversold, which means the probability of the instrument to reach for higher levels is more likely. And have a look, my shorter moving average within my indicator has broken upwards through my longer average, and that implies optimism. So at the moment, and have a look, I'm going to zoom in there. It tested that band there at $1,485. So hopefully, and this candle is not finished yet, this is a weekly graph, on a Friday close when $1,485 have changed into a support, that would be seen as very optimistic that the gold price maybe can go even higher and test that $1,515. With all the uncertainty around the world, trade wars, Brexit, etc., we might see even higher levels on the gold price, and it is seen as a safe haven. Peter wanted us to look at Exoro. And Peter, unfortunately, we had so many requests. I could not get through everybody's. But what is interesting for me is that we might be building on a possible inverse head and shoulder formation. This week's long lower shadow, Peter, on Exoro tells me that there is optimism. It tells me that in every pullback, through every weakness, that there are buyers that are accumulating this share. The strong resistance that needs to be overcome is waiting at 138 Rand and 3 cents. And if Exoro can change that level into a support, I can assume that it can maybe be strong enough to reach for the 40-week moving average, waiting at 150 Rand 69. Will I be nervous about Exoro again when it changes 125 Rand and 70 into a resistance? Hope you enjoyed the show. Please feel free to follow us on Twitter or send us an email. Have a fabulous week. Cheers.